Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddler Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons, or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and today we are going to camp? No, it's just a song about camp. Whatever. We're talking about Hello Gudder, Hello Fadder, and of course, joining me, as always, your co-host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid. How you doing today, Rich?
Man, we're getting close to Y2K here. I don't know what we're going to do when it actually hits. Like, something crazy is going to happen, I think.
Dude, I've been worried. There's been a lot of hype about all the various things that could go wrong when we do, in fact, get there. And yeah, this episode originally aired on November 14th, 1999. So hopefully our podcast will not crash in 2 weeks.
I mean, and if it does, we can just start a new one with another show that's been on for 32 plus, 3 more seasons possibly. But
yeah, that's all we have to do is just find another show that's been on for 30 plus seasons.
There you go. But I guess I should officially throw it back to you so we can start the podcast. You are the man, the myth. He contains spider eggs. It is Miles.
Hey, but not that virus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you talking about the Y2K one or the other one?
Honestly, at this point, I'm worried about all of them. That's the real truth. There is a fun fact about that one from IMDb. Whenever we get to that joke, we'll talk about it. But we are talking about Hello Gudder, Hello Fadder, which originally aired on November 14th, 1999. And right off the bat, this is one of those jokes in The Simpsons that starts before the show does, because that the title is a reference to the camp song, or a letter from camp, Hello Mutta, Hello Fadder, by Alan Sherman, which actually won a Grammy and reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 3 weeks back in 1963.
Did they play it at Camp Granada?
They did, indeed.
Oh.
The chalkboard gag on this one is, I won't not use no double negatives.
Oh, my brain.
You have to go through and realize, wait, is that, what are we affirming here? And then the chalkboard gag is another classic bit where we see Homer doesn't quite come out as well as the rest of the family does. In this case, they're actually porn from a concrete truck. Yeah, porn. They're porn. It's concrete truck porn. It's a genre, probably. It's
really hard, really fast. Actually, really slow.
Well, it starts a little soft, but it gets much harder over time.
Yeah, of course.
But it is a concrete truck that pours a mold of the Simpsons family. Homer breaks in half immediately, and his top half kind of rests down by his feet.
Poor Homer. He's never going to win a couch gag.
No, they usually do not go his way. But he does win at sleeping. And that's how we actually start out this episode, which I personally love. I'm sure that you also have felt this very, very often. It's right morning time. The alarm goes off, and Homer, instead of getting up with the alarm, decides to just absolutely beat the snooze alarm on his clock. Actually, to the point where he ends up sleeping until 11. And then my favorite part is once he wakes up, he's realized that he's super late at this point because it's a work day. So he tries to go downstairs and hang out in the kitchen with Marge and the kids. Everything's totally fine with Marge and Maggie specifically.
Well, I love the style of the animation too. Whenever time is passing when he's asleep and the song is playing, it's really cool. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it does a time lapse scene where we can see out the window, which is, yeah, you're right. It looks really, really cool.
And I think Bart steals money from his wallet during that time. And then at one point, Otto brings the girl in through the bedroom.
It was Otto's girlfriend steals the money. Yeah, and Otto brings a girl in, and then
she's the second one that steals the money. Bart steals some first, but then Otto's girlfriend
takes the rest.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's kind of cool because that shows Bart's smart enough not to take all the money. He knows that if he takes it all, it'll be super sus. But
or Homer has 2 wallets.
Few bucks missing. Maybe his dad won't notice. But yeah, Otto bringing a chicken and they just make out while Homer's sleeping next to him is pretty funny. This morning breakfast scene kind of sets up the premise for this episode a little bit. The idea is Homer is in a rush because he's late. Marge is encouraging him to help feed Maggie, but Homer's like, oops, sorry, I'm 26 hours late to work. No time for Maggie. And then you actually see the look of disappointment on her face, which already we've come a very long way from do it for her.
Yeah, it's kind of sad when like they do some stuff with Maggie in this one where like she has a few different emotions in this episode that we don't get to see from her, and yeah, you feel for her for a little while, and you keep waiting the whole time. They get off tangent, but you're like, I feel like I know what this episode's supposed to be about, but they just only periodically come back to it where you're like, oh yeah, it's supposed to be about her.
Mm-hmm. Well, this episode does feel a little bit different than the ones that we've been watching recently, and I think that at least part of the reason for that is this is Al Jean's third episode back after taking his sabbatical from the show. As we know, starting next season, I believe, he'll actually take over as showrunner again. But he came back originally with Mom and Pop Art, and then he did the Guess Who's Coming to Criticize Dinner, and then this is his third episode back that he was a part of. And I think that that's why there feels like a little bit of a shift, just because Al Jean does have a different style compared to who's been running the show.
Which, again, as a child, you probably would have never noticed.
Oh, yeah, no, not at all. That flew entirely over my head back then. I just assumed when I was a kid, I think I assumed Matt Groening just made all of these himself.
Yeah, I think that's how we all felt.
But as Homer's like, oh no time for Maggie, he gets distracted by the cereal box on the counter that has a Where's Waldo game on the back, and then he spends a ridiculous amount of time playing this like cereal box game. He's like, no, that's not him. This would be a lot easier without all these people. It's him. No.
Homer.
Waldo, where are you?
And then you see Waldo walk by in the background behind Homer in the through the kitchen window.
It's very much like the joke where they had Homer himself walk by his window while they were talking about it. Like it's similar in a lot of ways, but it's still very, very funny.
Never find Waldo, the poor guy.
Homer does seem to snap out of it and kind of remembers like, oh yeah, I've got like somewhere I need to be. And he jumps in his car and is immediately met with morning traffic somehow at 11:15, I'd say at this point.
It's the early lunch hour traffic.
I guess so. But Homer sees a clear path to victory, and it just so happens to be over the median in the fine streets of Springfield here. But, of course, almost immediately, he's pulled over by Chief Wiggum. All right, smart guy, where's the fire?
Over there.
This joke is so good because Wiggum is so focused on Homer, and literally right behind him, not only is there a building on fire, but it's actually the police building of, like, the Springfield Police Department is on fire. And, of course, this, too, is a crime. All right, you just bought yourself a 317, pointing out police stupidity. Well, is that a 314? No, 314 is a dog. Is that a 315? You know what? You're in trouble, pal.
But then it like drops that storyline because it cuts to the next scene when he's running into his like cubicle area.
Yeah, like that's just a joke and it's over. Like the whole fire, the whole him in trouble, all of that is just for like just that joke.
Mm-hmm.
Homer does, in fact, get to work at the power plant, and he's kind of chuckling to himself as he's like, I'd hate to see the look on old Burnsy's face if he knew I was just getting in. And, of course, we get the classic reveal in, like, that Simpsons style where we're uptight on Homer, and as the camera pulls back, standing directly behind him is Mr. Burns himself. Homer reaches behind him and he's kind of like feeling Burns like a blind guy might. Like, who is that?
He's not looking at him. He's like trying to feel it out.
Back behind him so you can't see him. Big ugly nose, bald, liver spot. And then he grabs Burns' dentures and they make like a cha-ching as he pops in a new set.
Turn around, Simpson.
No, I can't get in trouble if I can't see you.
I'm afraid he's right, sir.
I love the child logic works, and Smithers is just like, yeah, I mean, if he he doesn't see us get trouble, how is he in trouble?
Do you notice that Burns remembered his name in this scene?
He sure did, didn't he? It's funny that seems to happen sometimes when Homer's in trouble.
Yeah.
But Burns is actually able to turn like Homer's chair around, the spinning chair, and that forces Homer to see them, which again breaks his, I guess, immunity. But he takes a break for it into the sanctuary of the reactor core. But that doesn't stop Burns for long because he actually like puts on like the tube gloves and even the boots after Smithers reminds him to protect his feet. And he starts walloping, choking, and kicking Homer through the reactor core.
Abuse. Always a funny joke in the 90s.
Well, is that any better than his actual punishment, which was to be sentenced to eat toxic waste?
I mean, the Springfield River is already full, so they got to find other.
They got to put it somewhere. Why not into Homer's stomach? And he is unbreakable, so it doesn't really seem to affect him. If anything, it gives him super bowling powers. Yeah,
well, I mean, he doesn't need any more kids either, so that could probably help with that too.
That's true. Cheaper than other options.
It works for everybody.
Lenny and Carl come in. Oh my God, I love the bit we get with Lenny a little bit later. But Lenny and Carl walk in. They're very sympathetic because they're supposed to go out or they offer him a chance to go out and bowl. And Homer's very happy to do so, but he has to call his wife first and let her know that he's got some other work stuff to do.
Hello? Homer, where are you? You promised you were going to have a tea party with Maggie.
And we see Maggie sitting alone with just her stuffed dolls and one empty chair where her father is not. Oh, and there's also like a really cute moment because Maggie's like without like nonverbal, like all miming, of course, but it's almost like she's embarrassed that the other guest or to the other guest, and she's like trying to express that like she's like, I don't know where he could be.
Yeah. Oh, poor Maggie.
Oh, Marge, I'm sorry. I can't make it. And we see he's at the bowling alley already. The coolant tank just blew, and they're taking Lenny to the hospital.
Oh, no. Not Lenny. Not Lenny.
The exaggeration of how much not only Marge, but soon even the kids are going to feel for Lenny is just absolutely hilarious. And then throughout the episode, we'll see a couple of other just like that becomes like a running gag throughout the entire thing. But Homer replies, yes, I'm going to have to work late instead of seeing you and the kids, which is what I'd really want.
Okay, sure. Click.
And Marge has to like call the kids over gently.
Kids, turn off the TV. I have some bad news about Lenny.
Not Lenny! But of course, Lenny is completely fine. They're all at the bowling alley together, and Lenny and Carl are having a classic bit together at the bowling alley where they have entered their names as Pooh and Ass, which makes Homer mad because when they ask him what he wants to name him or what he'd like his name to be, he's like, is Pooh and Ass taken? So he's left with just his boring old initials.
It could have been funny, like if he did this and he had a funny name and they had to like engrave something with the player's name on it. That would have been really funny.
Oh my, that would, yeah, perfect name for Ass.
His name was Balls. You got a bowling ball, Balls.
So we see, we actually do a quick cut over to the bullies shining up Milhouse's head in the like ball polisher, which is something that used to exist in bowling alleys, but I don't think does anymore. I'm pretty sure you have to like go to like the pro shop to have that done at this point. But back in the day, you could just go up and put like this dollar in a machine and put your bowling ball in there, and it would like polish it up and shit.
You're polishing bone.
We actually see that bowling is going really, really well for Homer, and Lenny even points out early, which becomes a gag in itself. It's something you would never do. Totally breaks like all sports conduct, but they make a great bit out of it. But Lenny's like, "Hey Homer, that's 4 strikes in a row. You've got a perfect game going."
Really?
Careful what you say, Lenny. You'll jinx him.
Oh, right. Sorry.
And then we see Homer steps up to the bowling line, ready to bowl, and in the background we hear Lenny again.
Miss! Miss!
Homer and Carl glare at him, but we cut out once again to see that it's actually he's just calling for a waitress.
Sorry, I was calling the waitress.
And then he talks to her as well.
The split you sold me is making me choke.
Lenny?
What? I paid $7.10 for this split.
Will you at least call it a banana split, you dumbwad?
Hey, spare me your gutter mouth.
Homer actually throws the bowling ball at him at this point, which he has it coming. So Lenny is just being obnoxious, basically, but in a very funny way. But despite all that, Homer is actually able to continue his streak of strikes.
Yeah, and we saw, like, at the beginning of this scene that, like, he's picturing Burns and getting angry, and it's kind of, like, fueling him to get in the zone, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. We take a break from the bowling alley to catch up with the kids back at home who are watching Krusty the Clown, who has some serious business to get to today.
Well, and I think this is while Marge is stitching something that says, like, get well soon, Lenny. Like, while they're watching
and Lisa.
This.
Lisa is like, Marge and Lisa are like cross-stitching, like, get well soon stuff for Lenny. And I think we even see at this point, there's like a photo of Lenny by the phone in the Simpsons living room. But yeah, we see that Krusty's on TV.
Kids, today we're going to have to talk about Krusty Brand Chew Goo Gum like substance. We knew it contained spider eggs, but the hantavirus, well, that really came out of left field.
So before Kent Brockman interrupts, I will say real quick that is actually a reference to the Goo Gum, which was actually rumored not ever to have a virus, but there was an urban legend, that Bubble Yum used to contain spider eggs, but that is in fact not a real thing. But there's never any virus that was associated with the product.
Well, Bart's chewing the gum, and when his bubble pops, all these spiders
go everywhere. Yeah. And also, I love that if you've experienced numbness or coma of any kind, just send proof of purchase and $5 to Antidote, P.O. Box, and it cuts off with some more important news as Kent Brockman comes in to say, live from Barney's Bowl-O-Rama, where local pinhead Homer Simpson is on the verge of a perfect game.
Hey, there was no accident at the plant. Dad just wanted to go bowling.
You shouldn't have deceived me, but I'm just so relieved Lenny's okay. And that's where she actually grabs the picture of Lenny, and there's even a candle burning beside it. We cut back to the news and hear Brockman continue. This could be the greatest individual achievement in the history of Springfield, which proves just how pitiful this town is.
And now we see Homer is actually on the last frame. He still has the perfect game going. I think he's already got the 2 strikes in the 10th frame, so all he needs is 1 more strike to get the perfect game.
And because they caught it on the news, Marge actually brings the kids down to like see this feat, but they're respectful of not like disturbing him. So like Marge encourages them to like give him space and not go near him.
I don't understand. Like, there's no way they would have gotten down to the bowling alley in time if they saw him.
Time.
Yeah, it's a weird time lapse.
No, dude, you just don't remember the architecture, the layout of Springfield. The bowling alley is directly on the other side of Ned Flanders' house.
Right, it's where the presidents used to live.
Yeah, that's it. They're actually just bowling in the president's old bowling alley. That's it. That's what's going on.
If that were the case, Homer would always be over there.
That's true.
He would sleep there.
I love though Homer's response. Like again, Marge is like trying to be respectful of her husband, but Homer's like sad. Why won't they come over? I'm so lonely.
Which could have thrown him off.
We see that like we go to kind of a time stop motion where everything is slowing down. I assume we're kind of seeing it how Homer might be. Everyone but Abe snaps out of the slow motion, but Abe continues to be at that same rate. And I think it's Dr. Hibbert even comes over to ask him like, what's wrong, Abe? And it's just like, this is just as fast as I move.
As fast as I can go. But it's playing like the music to The Natural, if I remember correctly, while all this is going on. While it's doing the slow-mo stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. I also love to, as Homer's preparing to take his last bowl, the 2 employees of the Bowl-O-Rama actually have to get special keys to simultaneously turn to reveal the perfect 300 game button. Homer goes up, he hits his strike, and they actually go through the motions to push this button, which you think there's going to be like all this fanfare, but all that ends up happening is a panel in the ceiling opens and a single balloon that says 300 of it falls to the floor.
Hold up, Miles. You undersold this strike because he doesn't bowl this ball.
I hadn't even said he got the strike yet. I said as he was preparing to bowl, they were preparing to push this.
You said the 300 balloon, like you already got that.
You know what? Context is for suckers. I watch The Simpsons.
But he has the ultimate shot here. Like if you're going to have your natural moment with the lights breaking, this is how you do it. Because he straight hucks that ball. He yeets that ball for the young kids into the air.
Way to be hip.
Yeah, thank you. And this ball never touches the ground until it hits all the pins in the lane. Knocks all of them down, but then it's such a loud, earth-shattering strike that all the pins and all the other lanes also fall down. So if it's possible to score over a 300, Homer just did it like tenfold.
He just nailed it. He got extra strikes on the last frame. He also spikes the ball in celebration, which ends up going through the floor and hitting somebody, we think, because we just hear somebody like, ow! The crowd goes wild. The one balloon falls. Homer has just bowled a perfect game, arguably the most exciting event to happen in this pathetic town of Springfield, as Kent Brockman already pointed out. And that is actually how we end our first act. And before we go into the second act, I will say real quick from the commentary, which, by the way, I did forget to mention, actually featured Al Jean, Ian Maxstone Graham, George Meyer, Mike Anderson, Matt Selman, and Mike Scully. Al Jean actually said that he got the idea for this entire episode while he was waiting in line at Disneyland. And, you know, most magical place on earth where dreams come true. And that just kind of got Al thinking, like, what would Homer's dream? What would be a dream that Homer would have that, like, he hasn't done already? And it's like bowling, obviously.
Well, he's got another dream that he's already accomplished 3 times, as we'll find out.
That's very, very true. We see his list here in just a moment. Does that come up like right now, or did that just? No, it's like literally how we open up Act 2. Yeah.
Is it? Oh, I don't even remember.
Yeah, so as everyone's congratulating Homer, we open up Act 2 with him pulling out his to-do list, essentially. And on that to-do list, along with Bowl a Perfect Game, it says, before I die, I want to end crime and injustice, which has no line through it, Bowl a Perfect Game, which he scratches through, and see Stevie Nicks naked, which is checked off 3 times.
Yeah, what kind of circles has Homer been involved in?
Amazing.
But then I like that he does like this big speech, like, I could have done this about the big man upstairs. That's right. I'm talking about you. Thanks, Carl. Aw, shucks.
So Bowling a Perfect Game has put Homer on the like local celebrity circuit, essentially. Everybody is just like wants a piece of like, you know, what he's accomplished. And he even gets to go and speak at the elementary school, specifically for Bart's class, which has some really funny stuff in it. Miss Krabappel announces, today, children, our local hero is Homer Simpson. Mr. Simpson bowled a perfect game without the aid of steroids, crack, angel dust, or the other narcotics that are synonymous with pro bowling.
Thank you, Bart's teacher.
Oh my God. Not only that name, but all the names that Homer has for these kids is just fantastic.
You know, kids, my teacher said I'd never amount to anything. And until last week, they were dead right. But now I've achieved perfection.
And he starts to write perfection on the background, or on the blackboard, but he kind of gets confused after writing PER and can't really figure out how to go from there. So he just calls for questions instead.
Milhouse raises his hand and he goes, yes, Bart's weird friend.
Will you be my dad?
You've got a father. He's just a dud. Next question.
And he points to Terry, but he doesn't call her Terry.
Yes, the girl Bart has a crush on. And
you immediately see Bart like die and sink in his chair. Oh. Do you think I could grow up to be a doctor?
Hey, this is supposed to be about me. Now, any other questions?
And this is where he goes around the room and he's essentially just roasting all the kids because he doesn't know any of their names. So he calls them by the best description he can, the immediate description he can see.
Pumpkin face? headgear, chickenpox, smelly, lazy eye.
And his own son, he even calls Spiky Head instead of Bart.
Okay, class dismissed. Rock on.
And everyone leaves, but I'm sorry, all the kids leave, even though Krabappel has not called for the end of class, but she doesn't seem phased at all. She's just like, you want to split the kids' birthday cupcakes? But, his local celebrity isn't just at the elementary school. He actually makes it on the Springfield Squares, which is a parody of the Hollywood Squares, which there was actually a funny moment on this because some of the writers talked about they would used to watch the show when they were younger, and they were basically embarrassingly old before they realized that huge portions of that show are actually scripted. Not all the celebrities are just like that quick on their feet.
But it's also live from Shelbyville.
Even though it's the Springfield Squares, yeah. And Homer's announces, Homer, perfect game, Simpson.
Hey, hi, Ron.
And we actually see Ron Howard is back. And they actually briefly mentioned there's a lot of guest stars on this one, including Ron Howard. Ron Howard's one of the few people that have come back to do multiple spots. And they absolutely love Ron Howard. He's a great sport. He always basically gets a kick out of how they make fun of him. And I think they even said that it was like his idea to keep the fact, because they kind of established him as a bit of an alcoholic back in When You Dish Upon a Star. And they said that he thought that was just so funny that he was even like, oh yeah, you should just keep running that bit into the ground. So that's why he's like wearing a robe and drinking a martini on TV.
But he climbs like over Ron, like stepping on his face to get up to the center square.
There's a stairway, dumbass.
Okay, we'll start with our returning champion, Disco Stew.
Disco Stew's gonna groove up some dough playing tic-tac-toe.
Stu, we like to downplay the resemblance to tic-tac-toe.
I can dig it. Hit me with the center square.
Homer?
Yes, Kip?
According to Red Book magazine, what is the speed of light?
Well, yeah. Wait, do I read from the sheet labeled jokes or answers? And that's where he actually holds up the two pieces of paper. And again, that joke is entirely based on the fact that several of the writers were not aware that that show is scripted when they watched it as children.
Oh, for the love of... Stop tape!
And this is where Ron Howard actually kind of has a diva moment a little bit. He's like, make me center square, Kent. I'm ready. I can handle it.
Dream on, drunkie.
Oh, that's it. You're going down. And he does like this crazy backflip from the bottom center up to the middle square and actually starts like choking Homer. The other celebrities, in this case, it's Itchy from one of the corners.
Cartoon characters alive in person. Stop it. You two, you're making Scratchy cry.
Oh, we've got to stop putting these flavors of the month on.
Flavor of the month? Me?
Yeah, Homer, you can't just ride one accomplishment forever. Why do you think I stopped acting and became a director?
Oh, no, because you weren't cute anymore?
And then Disco Stew actually agrees with it, saying, yeah, I'll take the square. And Brockman confirms, Circle gets the square. Good night, everyone. And this causes Ron Howard to get even more furious with Homer.
I actually really, really enjoyed this scene. It might have been like my favorite scene of the episode. Just is so fast and funny.
Absolutely. We then cut to a couple of my favorite guest stars ever to be on the show. I really covet the action figures that came out of these two. I do not have them, but I've always wanted to pick them up. It's actually Penn and Teller performing their magic in front of a packed auditorium. And while Penn, who is the one that speaks, is setting up the trick for Teller, who is always the one that doesn't speak, but is always just put into like crazy dangerous situations, or at least that's what they want you to think. But I love this. He's basically got Teller suspended over a shark tank with a bag of cement over it as well. Quick drying cement specifically. And Penn is like, now before my partner Teller hits the shark-infested water, I'll need to borrow someone's crossbow. And of course, that's an absurd request, but everyone in the audience has one that they can borrow. He's like, oh, I only need one. Now, to save my partner's life, I'll need complete silence.
Did somebody say a perfect game?
You idiot, you'll ruin everything.
And Homer walks on the stage in the middle of the act when he says this.
And then he actually tells Penn what he's doing, like as if he's like doesn't know, he's like not on the in entertainment.
I'm doing a walk-on. It's a show business thing. So, how are you all doing? Let's see. What's in the news today?
Meanwhile, Teller is hanging very precariously above the tank, and he's slowly being lowered to the water. And very outside of his performance aspect, Teller himself actually speaks. Will you shut up?
Hey, I thought you never talked.
I didn't mean to. It just slipped out. Oh God, Ben's gonna beat me.
Folks, it's all part of the act.
No, it isn't. Don't leave me alone with him.
You've ruined the act. I'm going to kill you.
He'll do it. I'm not even the first Teller. Oh my God, I love these two so much in real life. They're one of my favorite magic acts ever. No, they are my favorite magic act ever, period. But the thing with Penn is he does in fact talk off stage. Like if you meet and greet with him, he will in fact have a conversation. I'm sorry, Teller. But the fact that they have him breaking, his character on stage for this joke, and just how much fun you can tell Penn and like this is totally in Penn and Teller's brand of humor, because they constantly do the type of stuff where they like essentially like make it look like they're gonna die or something. It's fun. It's all in good fun. Now, can I borrow a crossbow before Richie's timer goes off?
Uh-oh. But then Penn starts chasing Homer around on the stage.
He's not the first Richie. Sorry, what did you say?
It said Penn's chasing Homer around with a crossbow, looking like he's going to shoot him. I just want to talk to you. Come
here. We cut back to see that Maggie is actually back at home watching an episode of The Happy Little Elves. And they're telling her things like she's a special person and how important she is. And in the middle of her like building self-confidence, Homer walks in and changes the channel and moves Marge aside.
But like while he's doing that, Maggie's still pointing to herself, and Homer's like, "Yes, you have a special daddy."
Yeah, sorry, I almost choked in my water when you said that. But yeah, very special daddy indeed. We now join Access Springfield, already in progress. Burt Reynolds apologized to the Pope and promised to replace the windshield.
Burt Reynolds, class act. Well, now for our weekly segment, Yesterday's News, featuring Homer Simpson. Are you as bored as I am with the antics of this warmed-over Fred Flintstone? I say it's time to put this one-trick pony out to stud.
Woohoo! First up, Maude Flanders.
Homer!
But she said
Dad, what she's saying is you've had your moment in the sun, and now it's time for you to gracefully step aside.
And Homer immediately gets suspicious. He knows what's going on here. They did it to Jesus, and now they're doing it to me.
Are you comparing yourself to our Lord?
Well, in bowling ability.
I mean, he's got a point.
As long as they're not bowling over water, Homer would take the Lord every single time.
I just love that, like, putting him out the stud, and his initial reaction is to go, like, it's kind of a callback joke almost.
Yeah, fair. I honestly also like that they make the comparison to Fred Flintstone, because before they made this joke early in the episode, I got mad Fred Flintstone vibes at the bowling alley. I mean, it's kind of hard not to compare those two in some ways,
Bowling ability?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, only in bowling ability. Almost as like an extra punctuation on his flame going out. Even his single 300 balloon turns on him because Homer accidentally inhales it.
But then that's when Marge starts trying to help him out because he's feeling a little bluesy. And then she says, "Talk it over with your life partner." And
that's exactly what what Homer does is he walks over to Moe's. Spoiler alert for this joke we are about to reveal.
I can't believe it, Mo. I can't even scroll to the right part of the script anymore. It's so fast it just goes by. But the greatest feat of my life is already forgotten.
Ah, geez, Homer. I never seen you so depressed. As your life partner, I'm very worried.
Save your tears, Mo. Save them in a shot glass for someone who still has a shred of hope.
A shred of what? I'm sorry. I was counting the cocktail radishes. Now, where was I? 2, 3 radishes. 3 big radishes.
I love that Mo calls himself Homer's life partner. Refers to himself
as your life partner. We see a very dark joke come up as we get a reference to the Empire State Building. I think it's just Springfield State Building in this case. But he actually gets to the door where there is a line specifically for jumpers, like to go to the top and end it.
It's dark, like super fast.
Homer prepares his last words as he stares over the edge of this very tall skyscraper. Well, world, this is it. You know, I always thought you'd die before me. Now as I prepare my soul for an eternity of fire and poking.
Yeah, let's chat more, Splat Pal.
And he actually pushes Homer, who seemingly goes falling to his death in what might be one of the greatest act breaks in Simpsons history. Because we see Homer like mid free fall, and that is the end of our second act.
But don't worry, it's all a dream. Oh wait, no, it's not.
This isn't Dallas. Our third act does open up, continuing the free fall. Homer is going much fast, or very fast towards the concrete below, is what I meant to say there. And he decided that he's having second thoughts about this whole suicide thing. Normally, this would be a bad time for reconsideration, but as he's on his way down, he actually runs into Otto, who just so happens to be bungee jumping off the side of the building. So Homer actually grabs onto him, and immediately Otto is like, oh, God, no, the extra weight.
Hey, but Otto owes him. I mean,
it does, at least whatever his girlfriend took, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And how long his rental for the room was. What did you pay for an hour?
Oh, God.
It just so happens that Otto and Homer fall through an open manhole cover, and they just keep going deeper and deeper into the earth somehow. They pass the Morlocks, they pass the Chuds, and they finally land into or they don't really land, but they reach the extension of their bungee cord in an underground layer full of mole people, but not just any mole people, Hans Mole Man people.
Hans Mole people. There is no escape from the fortress of the moles.
And then immediately, once he gets that line out, the bungee cord starts to retract again. They go flying back upwards.
Oh, except that.
On the way back up past the Chuds and the Morlocks, Homer actually hits his head on the manhole cover that the workers are putting back in place, which causes Homer to land safely with a bit of a headache, but all in all right on the road below.
Oh, Lord, you saved me. I guess you had some higher purpose in mind.
And then he's almost immediately ran over by Ron Howard driving with his family. Hey, look out, you dumbass. You trying to get yourself killed?
Well, he doesn't say, he goes, oh, dumbass. Like, he knows.
Oh, yeah, it's like recognizing it. Oh, it's dumbass. Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
No, not anymore, Ron. Now I'm looking for something to dedicate my life to. Something noble, but easy.
And one of Ron's children is like, Daddy, stop talking to that bum.
Even get his kids in on it. Like, that's great.
Look, I'd like to help you out, Homer, but I'm taking my kids to the zoo.
That's great. Even big stars take their kids to the zoo.
Well, it's a different zoo, containing animals that you've never heard of.
Daddy, we're missing the Fantastipotamus. Is that Bryce Dallas Howard that says that?
Is it? I don't think so, no. You had me for a second, because there's like 5 guest stars in this one. But basically, Homer realizes that kids are the answer he's looking for. He can dedicate his life to his children.
Really? And you have children? Oh, well, look, here's some money.
And Homer, like, very indignantly, like, as he's putting the money in his pocket, is like, no, I don't want your pity money. I don't want your pity or your money.
Usually when you say that, you give the money back.
I do what now?
Yoink!
And Ron Howard actually grabs the money himself before driving off.
I love that Ron Howard got a yoink in.
Mm-hmm. We see that Homer is going to start by trying to connect with his firstborn boy, Bart, who is inside his room playing video games with Nelson, actually. He's like got a PlayStation set up at this point, so it looks like he's upgraded systems since the last time we saw Bart's room. But
he's playing the game Lisa played when she was sick. It sounds the same again. They've done this.
Oh, the Australian like Crash Bandicoot type thing.
Yeah, it's got that music for a split second, so I'm pretty sure this is a repeat noise, and you actually don't know Nelson is there yet.
That's true. He's basically, when asked reason to get like advice and whatnot, Bart's like, "Oh, I can get that from construction workers, the internet, or even Nelson."
He's like, "I got a father figure," and then Nelson's in there in like a robe with a little pipe,
and he says, "Like, if you tie a finger around your screen, your finger will turn purple."
Yeah. Then Homer's like,
Pearls of wisdom.
I see I'm not needed here."
It also notes on IMDb that Nelson is dressed a lot like Hugh Hefner.
He very much is.
Yeah. Bart doesn't need him in his life, so he tries his luck with Lisa, who is in the middle of doing her homework, and asks her father if he'd like to help.
Yeah, sure, you can help me. I need to find 3 words where Y is the vowel.
And if there was a set of hedges here, it would literally be that meme, but there isn't. So we just see slowly Homer back out of the room towards the doorway without ever acknowledging his daughter, the homework, or even the letter Y.
I mean, it's not that hard, Homer, but that's the point. That's
the point. Yep. But there is one other child that can't outsmart him. He thinks, I guess. He basically realizes he can completely spoil his daughter with attention.
Maggie, forgotten Simpson.
This may be a good idea, but or may not be a good idea. But Homer decides he's going to take her to. Before we get to the pool, sorry. Homer is trying to just really be extra involved, even more than usual. And this is so off-putting to Maggie that he ends up looking like a distorted and scary monster to her.
Which he'll do in the pool as well.
Yeah, which is funny with the sea monster stuff.
Yeah.
Homer realizes that Maggie is upset, so he tries to make it better, but only ends up making it worse by dressing up as Homer Tubby, which is a parody of the Teletubbies. And I really, really love this joke here because he's taking a jab at the idea that the Teletubbies were considered gay, or there's a rumor that one of them was gay. Whatever the case would be with these asexual alien creatures for a kid's show. But we were very, very afraid of being gay in the 90s. That's how television worked. So, hi, Maggie. I'm Homie Womey, the Teletubby. And I'm all man, in case you heard otherwise. Let's see what's on Tummy Vision. And Homer's holding the TV. Part of his costume includes a wire clothes hanger on his head. And as he's turning the TV on, it literally starts to send electricity through his body.
And it makes Maggie cower when she sees what's going on, which honestly, most of the time when you hurt yourself, children laugh at you. So
yeah, that's true. But it's setting up that pattern that Maggie is actually afraid of her father because he's such an absentee person in her life.
Or at least one episode.
In the backyard, we see Homer is trying something new. Maybe some fresh air will help. So he's throwing Maggie up into the sky, tossing and catching her pretty common. But he's throwing her up there pretty good. And on one of the tosses, nothing comes back down. We look up to see that Maggie has actually managed to catch the laundry line. And she is hand over hand, army style, working her way away from Homer. But Homer just grabs the laundry reel and is reeling it towards himself. So as Maggie's going, she's just kind of stuck in place.
You see that resignation where she's just and just gives up and lets him get her.
Homer's frustrated, but he vows that he won't give up. He's going to win her over the way he did with Lisa. And we immediately cut upstairs. We just see, because we're outside, and you see her window, and she snaps her window and closes her blinds.
Which is really kind of mean, because there's been a lot of episodes where Homer and Lisa actually bond. So it's, but again,
literally 2 per season, I think.
But it lets that feeling sink in of Homer absentee father.
Absolutely. And we actually cut to a daddy and daughter baby swim class, which is an idea Homer has to help bridge the gap. I personally laughed at the sign outside the YMCA, which says "Daddy and me swimming classes, no stepfathers."
So dark, so mean.
Okay, dads, this is where your child's trust in you really pays off.
Don't.
Homer is wearing goggles and 2 snorkels for some reason. and he's trying to prompt Maggie to jump in the pool.
Come on, Maggie. You can trust me. Come to Daddy.
And when we switch to Maggie's perspective, we see that once again, she's not seeing her father, but she's seeing, because of the goggles and the two green snorkels and his weird distorted voice, she actually sees a sea monster, very reminiscent of like the creature from the Black Lagoon type of idea. And he's making weird noises that sound like "Come to Daddy," but it's all distorted and scary.
But then he can see like the discomfort in her, and just when you still got all that stuff on, oh,
he's very frustrated. You can tell he's genuinely trying to connect with his daughter, and he just doesn't understand what's going wrong. They're actually driving in the car, and Homer's giving her a fairly heartfelt apology when he says, "I'm sorry, Maggie. I never realized things have gotten this bad."
And then a butterfly is like right outside the windshield.
And Maggie is very clearly like obsessed with this butterfly. Like she's pointing to it and trying to get her father to acknowledge it. But they also just so happen to be driving across a bridge near the ocean, which of course we know is a feature that Springfield has.
when necessary.
Yeah.
What are you pointing at? The ocean? That's a great idea. We'll swim in the ocean. And I'm going to totally forget all this equipment I had a second ago when we were at swim class.
And you can see the frustration in Maggie where she literally like smacks her forehead with her father like, "Oh, you fucking idiot."
Dumbass.
Oh, it's dumbass. Yeah. Maggie's on the edge of the water, still standing in the sand. Homer's waded into the water just a bit. He's trying to explain to her that the ocean is just like a bathtub, but with barracudas and moray eels. And that's when Maggie actually can see that there's a little bit more to the ocean than just that, because a huge wave comes from behind Homer and actually catches him and pulls him out to sea.
Is this where he's like, "Don't worry, that's just the current pulling me away"?
He's trying to swim against the current, which you should never do, by the way. If you're ever in that situation for whatever reason, swim sideways along, like perpendicular to the current until you stop feeling the current, and then you'll be able to safely swim into shore.
So you're saying like stair step your way back?
I guess kind of, but realistically, riptides aren't that wide usually. So if you just swim laterally to the shore, you'll eventually be able to swim in, no problem.
You didn't think you'd learn something unrelated to The Simpsons in this podcast, but you just did.
God, I truly hope that someone who's listening will use that knowledge one day. That's some hella crossover right there.
I owe my life to Miles.
I want to hear that. Let me know. Yeah.
All life's problem.
Hit me up at Mr. Most Days Off and let me know I saved your life.
And if nobody hits you up, that means that they perished in the sea.
Yeah, that's true. If I don't hear from you, I'm going to assume you're dead. So please message me.
Oh.
Homer realizes that things are going badly for him because he doesn't listen to the Best Darn Diddler Review Show, and he doesn't get these handy life-saving tips. So Homer's struggling, and he realizes that he needs help. He actually tells Maggie to call for Aquaman. And I personally think that there is a look of frustration and maybe even a little bit of bitterness here, because Maggie is clearly capable of this and doesn't need Aquaman. Her power trumps Aquaman's abilities like 3-1.
There you go.
Homer gets the idea, since he can't swim, maybe if he just drops to the bottom, he'll be able to run to shore. But he gets tired almost immediately and has to take a seat on a log.
Underwater.
Yeah, underwater. He's able to kick back up to the surface one more time, and he's yelling for help. And Maggie summons her abilities and basically takes what she had learned at swimming class without ever getting into the water, just from what the teacher taught, I guess. And all of her infant body is able to pull out the 239-pound Homer Simpsons from the depths of the sea.
And I love it because when she pulls him out of the water, like where its head just above, he's like, "Oh, you do love me." And then I think he sinks back down again.
Yeah, he's not the strongest in the water for sure, but I do definitely think we see aspects of Magical Maggie here. Arguably Unbreakable Homer too, when he hits his head on that sewer lid. That would probably kill the average person.
Mm-hmm.
Maggie is able to pull him all the way to the beach. She rolls him, or I'm sorry, gets her to the surface, but he starts, as Homer's thanking her, he does sink again, and that's when Maggie like rolls her eyes and rescues her.
And then somehow we cut to shore where Dr. Hibbert's there and the whole Simpsons family before cell phones existed in the Simpsons universe for the most part.
And Hibbert's giving Homer a little checkup.
Mr. Simpson, you're going to be fine, although you do seem to have swallowed a number of shark eggs.
Actually, that was before I went in the ocean.
Well, I don't want to pry into your personal life.
Well, then don't. Doctor, how could a little baby save a full-grown man from drowning? Because she's magical.
Ho ho, it's quite simple. When a parent's life is in danger, the child can summon superhuman strength. And that's the only explanation we're going to give.
Homer has the last line here, and he says, all I care about is that my little girl loves me. And we're going to spend a lot more time together from now on. And I'm going to move whatever I accidentally covered that do-it-for-her poster at work with.
Yeah.
This is actually kind of sweet. Coming all the way full circle.
No, it's not.
It isn't. It is for a moment. It is for a moment. Give it time. Give it time. For now, it's sweet because we see that we're going back full circle. Homer takes his daughter to Barney's Bowl-O-Rama, where he's teaching her to bowl, and she's picking up on it quite well because we see her bowl and knock down all the pins. But Homer has a little something left to say to her.
Good girl, Maggie. You knocked down all the pins, but you stepped over the line just a little bit, so I'll have to give you a 5.
And then we cut to the scoreboard where we see Homer's been keeping the score on paper.
That gives you a final score of 295.
And we see that Homer has 296 for what it's worth.
295 is awfully good for a baby or anybody.
And we see that like Maggie looks legit pissed off at this because she just got robbed, and she legitimately she just bowled a perfect game because she had a 295 with a 5 in the 10th, which means that she was only 5 pins shy of a perfect game, which means that really who's the bowling talent in the family? Homer, because he's the only one that has proof.
Yeah, well, I mean, if she stepped on the line, she stepped on the line, Miles.
Got to play by the rules, man. Yeah, that's true. But that is actually how we end the episode. That brings us to the end of the show there.
Homer tickles Maggie, and then she starts laughing, and it's supposed to make it okay. And then another balloon drops down that says 300 on it, and Homer just kind of bats it away.
Yeah, nope, that doesn't count. I love that those guys are on the ready, though. They're professional there at Barney's Bowl-O-Rama.
I mean, they saw Mr. Perfect Game walk in, so they had to be prepared. We need another balloon. It's going to take 3 to 5 weeks.
I did miss a cue. I meant to say when we saw Maggie saving Homer from drowning, it was actually the Victory at Sea theme was playing, which is a U.S. Navy anthem essentially for World War II. But Richie, was there anything else that you wanted to bring up about this episode? Hello, Gudder. Hello, Fadder.
Man, I'm gonna have to try to remember this one in the future because I forgot how much I loved Ron Howard in this episode. This 100%. Might be I could just be in the moment, but this might be my favorite guest appearance just because of how into it he was and his continuing feud with Homer and I don't know, it was just a whole lot of fun, man. And this episode as a whole, again, I don't remember all the jokes going into this episode, but it had a lot of really funny moments in it. So every week talk about it. Season 11, still feel like it's being underrated at this moment so far.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think this was a fantastic episode. I thought it was fun. I like that you get the presence of Al Jean in this one again, which is just nice to see. Yeah. We'll be seeing a lot more of it here coming up very soon. The only other thing that I wanted to say that I thought was really fun from the commentary was director of this episode, Mike Anderson, actually joined a bowling league while preparing for this episode just to get some ideas of what it was like in a bowling alley. But he ended up liking it so much that by the time they got around to recording the commentary for this episode, that was 8 years later, he was still in the bowling league. So
wow.
As far as I know, he's still bowling to this day. I just think that's really cool that doing research for an episode, he essentially found a new hobby.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. But other than that, that is going to do it for this week's Best Darn Diddly. I told you guys we'd still review The Simpsons eventually. That's 2 episodes in a row now. So that means that we will be back again next week with a off episode, a Best Darn Everything, before we come back and do another Simpsons episode. But as always, just want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening with us and going on this ride, this journey. Always a great time, and always means a lot to know that we're not just talking to ourselves. So thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, and as always, you can follow Miles at Mr. Most Days Off. That's on all social media platforms. Check out his stand-up. You can follow me at TheWiz_Kid23. Most importantly, you can follow our show. That's at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY.
And we will be back with The Simpsons again in 2 weeks, and we will be covering an Apu-centered episode again, as we're going to review 8 Misbehaving.
And you'll have me, the Whiz Kid, there, and you'll have, dumbass!
And until next time, be cromulent to each other.